Sugar Honey Bubble Tea, a podcast aimed to amplify Asian women voices while navigating race, dating, and wellness. I am your co-anchor, Ange.
Hi, I'm Toby. Before we start today's episode, please go follow us on Instagram at sugahoneybbt. It's at sugahoneybbt. Every week, we'll post a lot of podcast episode-related segments and a lot more. And also, very important news, we recently set up a PayPal account. So if you like our podcast or our Instagram contents, you can send us money.
Yes, please send us money. And we also have this little game that Toby and I literally came up with, last episode, where we're like, if you submit a question along with your donation, we'll give you one unsolicited advice. And if you're a lazy cunt and you don't want to submit a question, that was an endearment. We'll give you unsolicited advice anyways, because they're called unsolicited advice, honey.
Yeah.
So we're about to do some PayPal donation shout outs, and these cunts didn't submit
Any questions?
any questions. So watch out.
So we have a lot of sugar daddies and one mommy. Lily, thank you for the money, and stop cooking, hun. I'm starving when I'm on Instagram, so stop.
Oh, yeah. Lily's been doing these boomerang stories of her cooking.
Yeah.
Stop it, bitch. Nobody needs to see that.
Yeah, so hungry.
You posting them at, what is it, like 1 a.m.?
Yeah, starving.
Anyways, Lily, stop it. That's our unsolicited advice. Next up, Jackie. So Jackie actually told me that he's still thinking about the question, but since these are unsolicited advice, I'm gonna give it to you anyways, Jackie. Jackie, stop biking at 5 a.m. I know. I know you got this 5 a.m. club thing going on. Great for you. But I feel like a piece of shit when I'm in bed looking at you biked around the entire Manhattan by the time I woke up at night and still in bed looking at my phone. Jackie, stop it.
Stop flexing on everyone. Stop it. Stop it.
But thank you for the money.
Thank you. We really appreciate it.
All right, next up.
We have Kevin. Kevin, honestly, stop buying Off-White and Easy, hun. Stop it. Virgil Abloh doesn't need any more money. Stop it. We do.
Because we do. Because, oh, help me. I'm poor. Honestly, okay, I can watch Bridesmaid like every month and not get bored of it.
Yeah, I love.
If you are a listener of us and you haven't seen Bridesmaid, you need to turn this off right now and go watch Bridesmaid.
I mean, that's a bold suggestion.
Because you can't be our listeners if you haven't seen Bridesmaid. It's
true.
so funny.
You have to.
Sex is great, but have you ever watched Bridesmaid high? Like, it's insanely funny. I'm not even kidding. I was under a lot of influence.
A lot.
And that was the best movie I've ever seen. Like,
oh my God.
Oscar level. It's so funny.
I need to do that.
Right. So if you want to participate in our little game where we give you unsolicited advice, you can PayPal us money, honey.
Please do.
Love you.
And thank you very much for everyone that did. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I honestly really appreciate it. You guys all left really cute notes and encouragement, but no questions. So
stop that, hun. Whatever you're doing.
So we gave you some unsolicited advice. Now I'm ready to party. Oh my God, we're gonna lose listeners. Okay. Today we're talking about something that might get us canceled. If that didn't already got us canceled. Cancel culture.
Yes, hun.
Man, I had a fear. Do you ever have a fear of being canceled?
Yes. I mean, okay, for someone who doesn't want to get canceled, I talk a lot of shit. Like, I just, so problematic.
And if you think Toby is problematic on this show, it's like this times 3.
Yeah,
off
it's like
the show.
me on acid. Just like so intense. Like
it's, yeah. I mean, I have a fear of being canceled, like everyday cancel culture in the beginning of this podcast, or even before starting this podcast. You know this. I'm like, what if we don't say this right? What if I'm like, what if this is not politically correct? Like, what if people, what if this, what if that? Like, it was everyday cancel culture with me on this podcast. And I remember being, you know, having to cut out so much stuff that I thought was remotely a little bit offensive. In the beginning. And then I realized, what's the fucking point?
Right.
You know? I think at one point I was just like, this is pointless, because if I don't talk about these things or how I actually feel, then who's going to listen to it? They could just go online and listen to some other politically correct person talks about their boring shit.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's how this podcast came about. Did I overcome it? No, I'm still everyday cancel culture.
The fact that knowing that if we do get canceled, we're going to get canceled together.
Oh, honey, if I go, you go. If you go, I go. I can't do this podcast without you.
It's a packaged deal.
Yeah, just imagine the day we die. We're gonna be at the gate where the gate of the heaven. I'm not even Christian, but for, you know, example, if that does come about, they're gonna look at this podcast and be like, honey, you're at the wrong place.
You're going down there.
Yeah, just take that elevator all the way down to the bottom basement floor and they will check you in. And honey, I'm getting us a 2-bedroom apartment down in hell.
Oh my God. A whole ass suite.
Yeah, let's talk about cancel culture. Let's get into it. What is cancel culture?
Well, if you don't already know, cancel culture or call-out culture is a modern form of ostracism, which means it's a social process that you kind of exclude someone from a society or group, and whether it be online, on social media, or in person, those who are canceled are, you know, thrust out of a social or professional circles.
So kicked out.
Yes.
Yeah, basically. Basically the entire internet attacking someone through shaming, boycotting, verbal abuse. You know, even worse things could come. Imprisonment, many things. What is the purpose of cancel culture? I've been thinking about this a lot.
I mean, once again, I'm asking. Right.
My conclusion is that it forces people to feel the consequence of their actions. That's the baseline.
Yes.
For me, I think that's what cancel culture is for. And I think to me, I think cancel culture is an irresponsible trend.
Yes.
And I'm about to get canceled somewhere when this release.
Canceling is basically for normal people to, like, acknowledge that you don't have to have the power to change something. But is it really, like, what really happens to people? You know, like, are they, after they get quote unquote canceled?
I think, okay, when I say it's an irresponsible trend, is that I think that with cancel culture, you call someone out, you publicly shame them, make them feel like a whole world is attacking them, and then doesn't allow them to rehab. You know, it doesn't allow them to make the right choices again or to grow. Like, it leaves them to their shame and guilt, walk away thinking they are disgusting or morally corrupted and you're better than them.
Right.
That almost seems like what's happening, right? It's irresponsible. And we seem to forget that the people we're canceling are also human beings as well who make mistakes. And I just don't see a point, you know, it doesn't help anyone. Not the person that's being canceled, not the person that's canceling people. And it's also not helping the victim because they're probably reliving the trauma.
Yeah. Well, I feel like, you know, we see like celebrities get canceled a lot. And I feel like sometimes people mistake real change from like for canceling and calling out. Like they think calling out people on internet equals change, equals like participation. But when we cancel people like that, like when you said celebrities or, you know, like, I don't know, a group of people, we actually don't have access to the person that we're trying to educate. So from canceling or calling out, you are essentially reinforcing how woke you are. So is it just an ego boost so you can feel better than others? Like, how is that act actually benefiting the actual change that you're trying to make, you know?
Mm-hmm. It's basically a competition of who wins the moral high ground game.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Is it me or is it the person, right? Like, it's like false sense of social justice almost. Mm-hmm. And it wouldn't have existed without social media.
Yes.
Because social media is anonymous. It's it creates a pack mentality, which is like pile on attacks, and it's fast and irresponsible attacks. And you know, especially pack mentality, where you can leave a comment and now you can like the comment, and now a whole bunch of people, you know, 300 people like this one comment you made. You feel like you're being validated from strangers, and then a bunch of people commented underneath your comment. You feel like, you know, all of a sudden you are
making
some sort of social justice change, wearing a cape in a non-existent world.
Dude.
I don't know. Like, to me, okay, I know some of our listeners are going to be like, well, you say all this, but what about R. Kelly?
Dude,
you know?
Let's talk about R. Kelly.
Let's talk about R. Kelly. Because, okay, I know he did some disgusting things, and I'm not saying those things are right. They're bad. They're really, really bad. And but my issue, aside from the things he did, is also, why did we only started calling him out after years of abuse he imposed on young girls? Like, where is all of you, the people calling him out then?
Yeah. When you were all bumping to fucking Ignition.
Yeah. And let me remind you, a lot of the songs were probably when you were underage.
Yeah.
Right? So when you're bumping to, you know, Ignition at the age of 16, where was you now? You know, like,
yeah.
You're like, where are you now? Like, okay, why do we always let things get to like a boiling point before any of these topics are being like
addressed, I guess.
Yeah. As a society? Like, we all know that this has been going on for so long, and obviously, you know, the whole thing with R. Kelly now is kind of like behind us now because he's convicted, he's in prison, everything. But it doesn't mean that we can stop talking about what happened. Yeah. Because there's still that huge issue with pedophilia that have not been addressed, and not just because R. Kelly came and go, that thing just came and go with it.
Exactly.
If you didn't talk about it then, why aren't you talking about it now?
Yeah, it also made me question, you know, how like when R. Kelly got canceled, and that, you know, like, what is the line? Like, if you listen to R. Kelly, or, you know, when Erykah Badu in one of her concerts was like, you know, R. Kelly, like, he will always be my brother, like, I always support him. Like, does that mean she's canceled? You know, like, what is the line here? And what, like, who gets canceled? Does that mean if you use that logic, does everyone gets canceled? I
mean, for Erykah Badu, she publicly came out and said that she will always support him. But I love Badu, and I might be biased, but also, like, you know, if I really think about it, she's saying it from like a loving point of view because she knew what R. Kelly went through.
Yeah, exactly.
In his childhood, she knew the things that he had to go through. So she was being more empathetical than politically correct, if I may. And for people that sees that as at face value, they think, well, then she must agree to everything he has done, and then she's morally corrupted as well. No, that's not equal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's not the same thing. But, you know, going back to the whole thing of people not calling him out then and where are they now talking about this, like, doesn't it just, you know, shouldn't we examine the society as a whole? Like, doesn't that look like a trend to you?
It does. I mean, the whole like calling out thing, jumping on issue thing, it's really just a trend. It's like showing people that the more issues I care about, the more woke I am. But do you really care? Like, really, do you? Outside of this little story thing, do you really care?
Yeah, I mean, like I quote Dave Chappelle all the time, and he talks about in one of his stand-up special where people care about. There's too much shit to care about nowadays.
Right.
Like there's like every day is some shit. Like every day it's some bombing. Every day it's some war going on. Every day is starvation, poverty, and you know we are empathetical people, and we want to shine lights on these things, but we can only do so much as human beings. If you only have 100% of fucks to give, now you gotta give 1% of fuck for everything, because now you gotta care about everything, and then as a result, you have 0 fucks to give for anything. So everything now just seems performative.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and going back to R. Kelly, you know, people who, if you really give a fuck, you think, well, I'll just stop listening to his music. No, honey, that whole documentary came out. His Spotify streaming increased by 16%. What was it, 20? Since the debut of that documentary. So it's like, who is actually giving a shit? If you claim that you're giving a shit, then are you still listening to and bumping to Ignition? Because 16% is a lot.
If you put your thing on private session and bump to fucking Ignition, I know who you are. I know where you are.
Right? And like, and another thing about cancel culture that like really bothers me is that it's not benefiting anyone. Other than in this case, record company and music streaming platforms, which equals engagement, which equals ads.
True.
So, or social media platform. Like the more you talk about this incident or whatever incident that's being canceled at the moment, you are generating that social media platform for it being Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is. You're generating their engagement. You're helping them. And in return, they get more ads and they make more money. Honey, get in, bitches. We're going to capitalism all over again.
So it's more like people are buying into the whole like wokeness or like cancel culture.
Yes.
But the bigger, like I guess the bigger corporations see that and use people's empathy almost as a weapon against ourselves.
Yes.
So we're stupid.
We're stupid, and I'm spiraling because like I literally came up with this thought this morning, and I'm like, oh my God.
That's
yeah, if you really think about it, who is benefiting through all this? Definitely not the person that's being canceled. They're probably convicted. And the people that is making comments underneath little posts, they're not benefiting from anything other than this false performative or social justice on social media. So the real people benefiting from it is the platform.
Wow.
All right, I'm going to pull back a little bit. What happened? What really happens to people that are canceled?
Nothing. There is a lack of real consequences. There is a lack of actual like follow-up actions, you know, because it's like a lot of people, I feel like this term just gets thrown around too much now. Like, for example, I was just yesterday, I just wanted to see who actually got canceled. So I just look up like people that got quote unquote canceled in 2020. And people are like, you know, Doja Cat got canceled after her racist comment. Lizzo got canceled after promoting a 10-day detox smoothie diet. J.K. Rowling got canceled because she made transphobic comment. But if you pull back a second, like, people are still listening to Doja Cat. People are still listening to Lizzo. People are still watching Harry Potter on Netflix. So what does canceled actually...
Yeah.
Like, what did it do?
What did it do other than generate all these hatred online? What are the real consequences? I mean, like, we can talk about a handful of people that had real consequences from cancel culture. We're talking Weinstein. We're talking Bill Cosby, Kevin Spacey, R. Kelly, of course. They have been, other than Kevin Spacey, they have been convicted or imprisoned. Louis C.K., Kevin Spacey, their career significantly impacted. But I mean, Louis is kind of back in the scene a little bit now. Like, he released a new special, like, 2020, I believe, or 2019. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, those are the only people that I can really think of that had real consequences from cancel culture. And a lot of it is from the Me Too movement. I mean, all of it, really.
Yeah.
But I feel like, to me, like, people that, like, we're talking, other than them, like the people that you were talking about, like Doja Cat or whatever, I'm not specifically talking about them and their incident, but like, isn't that what celebrities do? They just kind of hide for a little bit and they come back out with a perfect PR response. Like, is cancel culture really letting people know what they did wrong? Or are these celebrities just doing damage control? Because that's just what Hollywood is anyways.
I think that's just what it is, because it's like a whole cycle. I feel like every celebrity goes through things like this. You say something, you do something, people cancel them, boycott their stuff, and then what happened? They get impacted a little bit. Cool, but they came back out, and the actual issue is not being addressed. You know, because a lot of times the things are being canceled for, it's systemic issue. It's like very deep-rooted systemic issue, and cancel culture is specifically useless when it comes to those things. Like, you need to be everyone should be actually educating themselves. You can't just, solve racism from canceling Doja Cat. I wish it's that easy. I would just cancel her right now. Like,
right? Like we said earlier with R. Kelly, it's like, well, so now has the pedophilia issue ended with R. Kelly in prison? No. But then what about all the people that was attacking R. Kelly at the time? Where are they now on this issue if they cared about it so much then?
Yeah,
like, the issue doesn't go away no matter who you cancel. The system, it's called systemic issue for a reason. It's like, okay, we'll talk about capitalism. Like, we can't change capitalism. There's no changing because there's already a thing. It's called capitalism. We can't, racism. We can't change racism because it's already a thing. It's called racism. So what we can do is really work around it or abolish it, or create something new to replace it. And mind you, you can't replace racism.
Yeah, but you can go to communism for capitalism. Once again, dictatorship, anarchy, honey,
fascism. Get in, honey. We're going to fascism.
Just no chill.
But yeah, like, damn, when we talk about cancel culture, it's all okay. You also need to think about political correctness as part of it. What is political correctness? Why is it there?
Don't understand, because I feel like this term also gets thrown around a lot now. And yesterday I was thinking about it, and I'm like, what does it actually mean to be politically correct? Because I know that, like, when the term was first coined, it was pretty much just what it means, like, from word for word, like, oh, you're following the law, like, it goes with the law, reading the law to understand what the text is actually intended to achieve. But now that it's being used so much, I feel like I no longer understand the meaning of it.
Oh man, like, political correctness to me is, hey, lovely, lovely listeners of Sugar Honey Bubble Tea. What you've just heard is part 1 of our 2-part episode on cancel culture. Hopefully Toby and I have not been canceled yet. Come back in 2 weeks' time, specifically June 28th, for part 2, where we talk about what we think political correctness really is. And Toby thinks Earth is probably just a prison where aliens send humans to after they cancel them. Interesting, right? Well, stay tuned and see you soon. Bye.